Hi everybody, we're here from Murmur Collaborative. My name is Nick.
And I'm Lindsay, and we're here to talk about legal somatics. Essentially, we are exploring what is so significant about introducing and returning to the body, as it helps us to better identify the very real ways that the legal system conditions and shapes us into how we show up in everyday practice as lawyers.
So we've been working with a group of lawyers to identify the 6 core shapes of the legal industry. And these are automated responses to the pressures and context of the field, right? So the shapes are not harmful in and of themselves. And in fact, sometimes they produce the results that lawyers need in their work. But it's when they're driving the show and lawyers don't get to be at their choice about them that we run into some trouble. And so that's what we're going to be exploring together today. And Lindsay has graciously offered up an example from her own life and legal practice from one of the shapes that showed up for her this week. So in a moment, I'm just going to ask her to tell us a little bit about that story, and then we'll get into some practice together. And we want to invite you to really orient to how this shape maybe impacts you and shows up in your own life and practice, and then to also be inside of the somatic practice with us.
Yeah.
So, Linz.
Yes.
Will you tell us, I know that the shape that we're exploring here is irritability and impatience, a fun one. So will you tell us a little bit about how that showed up for you in your work this week?
Sure, and it's subtle, right? So just being aware of the subtleties in which these habituated tendencies appear. I was just completing a 45-minute phone call with a client and a translator to that client. And when we got off the phone and wrapped up, I got a message from the translator who was requesting another 30-minute call sooner than later to just explore more information about the client's case that would be in support of them, better translating, doing their job. And in that experience, I had this immediate impatient response, an irritable response to, I don't have 30 more minutes to give this person, and almost how dare they ask me for additional time.
Thanks for sharing that. Yeah. And then this is the point where somatics can enter in, and where we start to really grow our awareness of how that feeling of how dare they ask me for more time is actually creating shapes and sensations in our bodies. Because again, when we notice those things, we grow our ability to make different choices about them. So
yeah, that's right.
Linz, here's the question. Where then, or even now as you retell the story, could you feel the experience of irritability or impatience in your body? Where can you locate that?
Yeah, well, it's funny because I can even feel my fists clenching, in this conversation. There's a contraction that wants to happen in the experience of impatience. But right away in that moment, I felt my chest contract. I felt this tightness in my heart area, right? This closed off, turned off experience towards another person. It was almost this protective shield came on.
Yeah, so invitation to all of you who might experience irritability or impatience in your work and life to notice where that is in your own bodies. And then if it feels tolerable, and Lindsay, for you in this moment, if it feels tolerable, to just turn that up 20%.
The contraction?
Yeah, the contraction, the tightness in the fists, the whole life of sensation associated with it. And just stay with that as much as possible.
Yeah, it's every other part of my body is starting to clench, my jaw, my thighs are tightening.
And what's your sense of what's that taking care of?
Yeah, it's I want to create a wall. I either want to hide and disappear, or create this wall, this impenetrable wall of don't bother me, right? Give me distance, right? Something about just a boundary. Yeah.
And any sense of how long that wall or that boundary has existed in you, or how long you've needed it?
I mean, I'd been practicing law, for over a decade, and then I stopped for a while. And so my return to practice now, there's definitely some like historical, remembering that's taking place, which is like safeguard your time, because when I was a practicing lawyer at a firm, my time wasn't mine. And so I can feel how that old historical experience is like living out in this really like innocent and totally genuine request for additional time.
Yeah, so this right here is the point at which somatics and coaching is really interested. But for the sake of this moment, and supporting all you in your work days or whenever else you're watching this, and you, Lindsay, getting a little more nourishment in here aside the irritability and impatience, just invitation now to open your palms. Yeah, just open your hands up and feel into an energy or quality that you sense would be supportive to that place of contraction in you. So that could be something like ease or relief, maybe grace.
Yeah, like I'm noticing like calling in some warmth and some peace.
Okay. Yeah, warmth and peace. And for those of you who are also exploring this on your own, if you went up in your head to try and find the answer for what quality would support that space in you, just try saying a word out loud like warmth or peace. Yeah, just to come back into the body. And then draw that energy down to the center of your palms. And then if it feels appropriate and good, place it on the spot of contraction, tightness, wherever's needing a little extra attention. And then notice what, if anything, is different as a result.